Hello students, welcome. Welcome back to Anand Joshi Biology, a YouTube channel that helps you to prepare for your board examination as well as national level NEET examination or even the state level CET examination. All these examinations they are going to play a very important role in your career, and definitely through this channel I am going to help you and make you available with all the latest information about the syllabus and content of the syllabus. So once again, welcome. Friends, today we are going to start with the discussion of chapter number 8, and this chapter number 8 perhaps it is the most important chapter that belongs to your syllabus for all the examinations. And this chapter number 8 it is titled as respiration and circulation. Now this particular chapter it will consist of respiration, the basic concept of respiration, the anatomy of respiratory system and the physiology of respiration. Similarly, in the second part, we are going to see the details of circulation, the concept of circulation, the anatomy of circulation and physiology of circulation. All these topics we are going to complete through this chapter. Friends, we know all the living organism, it may be a unicellular amoeba or gigantic whale or even the human being, they require a continuous supply of energy for performing their life processes. Now this energy is stored in the body in the form of complex organic compounds and that represent the potential energy. But however, this potential energy is not usable, but for performing life activity, this potential energy is to be converted to some usable form or kinetic energy, and this conversion of achieved through the process of respiration. Now if we see the process of respiration, it can be defined as the biochemical process of oxidation of organic compounds in an orderly manner for the liberation of chemical energy in the form of ATP, that is adenosine triphosphates. Now for this, the process of gaseous exchange, it takes place between organism and the surrounding environment or atmosphere. Now the site of gaseous exchange, it is said to be the respiratory surfaces or respiratory systems. Now if we see the general chemical equation of respiration, it is nothing but the C6H12O6, that is glucose, a organic compound. Instead of glucose, they may be the amino acid, they may be the fatty acid that can be used as the respiratory surface. They are oxidized with the help of atmospheric free oxygen, which is representing here in this equation as 6O2. They are converted to 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water, along with the generation of 38 ATP molecules that can be usable directly into the metabolism. Then we'll understand the organs of respiratory exchange in different living organisms. Now respiratory exchange is a simple physical process. You call it as a diffusion, that is exchange of material from the region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration. Now for gaseous exchange, it should be efficient, and that respiratory surface, they should show certain characteristic features. Now these features they include the first one, it should be how large area, the surface area should be respiratory surface must be a very large to allow sufficient exchange of gases for life processes. Secondly, it should be very thin, highly vascular, supplied with blood vessels, and it should be permeable to allow the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So it should allow exchange of gases, and thirdly, it should be moist, because through the moist surface only exchange of gases is facilitated or it is occurring more faster. Now first we will see the exchange of respiratory gases in plants. Now as far as plants are concerned, the shape and structure of plants, it facilitates gaseous exchange by simple process of diffusion. Now a terrestrial flowering plant like angiosperm has many air spaces between the cells of stem, leaves and the root. And these air spaces, they are forming a network, they are continuous, they are connected to one another. Now oxygen diffuses into air spaces through stomata, that are the pores which are present in the leaves as well as young stem, and carbon dioxide and water vapor, they should be diffused out, they should be given out. Now in aerated soil, the aerated soil, oxygen gets dissolved in the film of moisture or water around the root tissue, and then it enters into the root tissue by diffusion. Now the woody flowering plant, the larger plant, trees and shrub, they have bark, and that bark is it is external impermeable layer. Now this bark, it also show small pores, and these small pores are called as lenticels, and through the lenticels gaseous exchange can be completed in the larger trees. Friends, then we'll see respiration in animals. Now animals are more active, they require more oxygen, they produce more carbon dioxide. So respiration in animal is unique. And as compared to plant, animals, they show wide variety of respiratory surfaces or organs. Now the respiratory surfaces in animal, they differ in different varieties. In animals, depending upon the complexity of organization and the surrounding medium, certain parts of the body have become specialized for exchange of gases, and they are forming different type of respiratory organs. In higher animals, these respiratory organs are also associated with transport system like blood vascular system or circulatory system. Now this is the chart that represents a different variety of animals, their habitat and respiratory surfaces or organs which are provided to them. The first group is there. Now that first group is thought to be the protists, and these protists, sponges and the coelenterate, they are aquatic in their habit, and for aquatic nature they have got plasma membrane as the main respiratory surface. The second group is flatworms like planaria, annelid, earthworm, nares, or even the amphibians like frog. They are either aquatic or semi-aquatic, and when they are aquatic and semi-aquatic, the respiration, exchange of gases, it occurs through plasma membrane or general body surface like moist skin, that is called as cutaneous respiration. Then insects are there. Now these insects are representing the terrestrial habitat, where tracheal tubes and spiracles are the main respiratory surfaces. Arachnids like spiders and scorpion, they have got terrestrial habitat, and there they are respiring with the help of book lungs. Then limulus, another insect that represent the aquatic environment, and here the book gills are there for respiration. Now if we see the amphibians, they are in early stage of life, tadpoles. Now these tadpoles of frog or even the salamander or even the newts, they have got aquatic environment, and where they are performing external gills as the respiratory surface. Now fishes, very well known, aquatic environment, and they are respiring with the help of internal gills. Reptiles, birds and mammals, they are terrestrial and they are respiring with the help of lungs. Whereas turtle, very interestingly, turtles, they are having underwater habitat, and that habitat allow them to respire with the help of cloaca. Now this cloaca is helpful for exchanging gases with the surrounding water. So these are the different respiratory surfaces and habitat of different organisms, animal groups. Friends, after this we'll go for the mechanism of respiration. Now that mechanism of respiration in animals, particularly higher animal, it is a biological process that involves exchange of gases between atmosphere and lungs, and it results into formation of what we call it as a chemical form, biological form of energy, ATP. Now it includes the following processes. These are completed in 4 phases. The first one, it is the breathing. That is an external, we can say, process of exchange of gases. Then external respiration that occur at the surface of lungs. Then internal respiration that occur between the respiratory surfaces and the blood tissue, and finally the cellular respiration. Now the first process, it is called as breathing. Now breathing, it is a physical process by which gaseous exchange takes place between the atmosphere and the lungs. It involves inspiration and expiration, 2 important processes. Both these steps, they involve parts of thoracic cage, the ribs, sternum and intercostal muscles along with the muscles of diaphragm. Now, if we see the process of inspiration, it is the process during which the atmospheric air is taken into, it is sucked into the lungs. Now, it occurs due to pressure gradient formed between the lungs and atmosphere. Now, it is an active process in which diaphragm becomes flat, goes downward, and external intercostal muscle, they contract to the ribs and sternum move upward as well as outward. Now, this process is actually leading to the increase in the thoracic volume and decrease in the pressure of thorax and the lungs. As a result, to equalize this low pressure inside the lung, air from the atmosphere rushes into the lung and it will complete the process of inspiration. Now, if we see the process of expiration, it is the process during which thorax contract, causing air to be exhaled, and that will result due to the relaxation of diaphragm which moves upward. And when it moves upward, it will form a dome-shaped surface. As a result, the intercostal muscles are relaxed, pulling the ribs cage inward and downward. As a result of that, process of exchange of gases will be completed. This causes a decrease in the thoracic cage and it will lead to the increase in the pressure of thorax. The lungs are compared to the atmospheric pressure, and so air in the lung, it rushes out, and this process will result into what we call it as an expiration. Now, one inspiration and one expiration, it will form one breath. Actually, if we see the process of second, we can say step, that is called as external respiration or exchange of gases at the level of alveoli. Now, this is as follows. All alveolus which are present in the lungs consist of a layer of simple squamous epithelium resting on a basement membrane. Now, it is intimately associated with the very dense network of blood capillaries, very close association between blood capillaries and the alveolar epithelium it occurs. Now, the capillary wall is also made up of simple squamous epithelium and it is resting on the thin basement membrane. Now, both these layers have similar structure and thin wall. Together, they make up the respiratory membrane through which gaseous exchange occur between lung alveoli or alveolar air and the blood. Now, that will follow. Both the layers have similar structure and they are thin wall. Together, they make up the respiratory membrane through which gaseous exchange occur between alveolar air and the blood. Now, if we see the process of diffusion of gases will take place from an area of higher partial pressure to the area of lower partial pressure until partial pressure in these two regions become equal or it reaches the equilibrium. The partial pressure of carbon dioxide of blood entering into pulmonary capillary is around 45 mmHg, while the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the alveolar air is around 40 mmHg. Now, due to this difference, carbon dioxide diffuses from capillaries into the lung alveolus. Now, this process, similarly, partial pressure of oxygen of blood in pulmonary capillary is around 40 mmHg, while in alveolar blood it is 104 mmHg. Now, due to this high difference between oxygen concentration, oxygen diffuses from alveoli to the capillary and then will be conducted. Now, then we'll see the basic concept related to pulmonary volume, capacities and lung volumes, all with normal values. The first one, it is the tidal volume, abbreviated as TV. It is the volume of air inspired or expired during normal breathing, and it is around 500 ml. The second one, inspiratory reserve volume. It is called as IRV, the maximum volume of air or the extra volume of air that is inspired during forced breathing in addition to TB. It is having the value of around 2000 to 3000 ml, around 2 to 3 liter I can say. Then the next concept is the expiratory reserve volume, ERV, the maximum volume of air that is inspired during the forced breathing after normal expiration. It is having the volume of about 1000 to 1100 ml. Then the fourth concept is that it is called as dead space or DS, the volume of air that is present in the respiratory tract from nose to terminal bronchiole but not involved in the gaseous exchange, and it is just 150 ml by volume. And then the residual volume or RV. Now, RV, the volume of air that remain in the lungs and the dead space even after maximum expiration, it is said to be the residual volume, and it is around 1100 to 1200 milliliters. Then we'll go for the lung capacities. Now, what are lung capacity? The first one, it is total lung capacity, the maximum amount of air that the lungs can hold after maximum forceful inspiration. And to our great surprise, it is around 5.2 liters to 5.8 liter. That means 5200 to 5800 ml in total. And then the vital capacity VC, the maximum amount of air that can be breathed out after maximum inspiration. And it is sum total of TB, IRV and ERV. And in case of human being, it is around 4.1 liter to 4.6 liter, or in another word you can say 4100 to 4600 ml. Friends, this is the story of the basic idea regarding the respiration. As a first part, as a first video in the series, you will get the information about basic respiration, respiratory surfaces, as well as the basic concept related to the measurement of lung capacity. In the next lecture, we will see the anatomy of human respiratory system, and then we'll continue with the physiology of respiration. For the time being, you study this, prepare your examination, and keep safe. Stay safe, keep safe, and take care of your health. Thank you.